Hey guys, welcome to another video. It is the week before spring break, which means I have a test in every single class. And I'm really not looking forward to that. So this week we're just going to be studying mostly. We'll see if I read anything at all this week. I've been in a reading slump all year, if I'm being quite honest. I read like one book in February and I will talk about it. It was The Wicked King by Holly Black. I finished it last week, and so maybe I didn't read it in February. Maybe I read 0 books in February. I don't know. Time is really not a concept that I really think about very much. It doesn't exist, and therefore I don't give it much of my attention. I have really liked the Cruel Prince trilogy, and it's not for the reasons that I thought people liked it. Every time I've seen people talk about it, it's always been like people talking about Cardan and Jude, or mostly just talking about Cardan. And it's like, I just don't think he's the star of the show, you know? I think it's really about Jude. Even their romance is like not even the biggest part of the story. Like, it's really just about Jude being a bad bitch, and she is one. A lot of the story is about the politics and I guess just politics, yeah. It's about politics and her maneuvering the fairy world and trying to balance everything. And I think it's really good for those reasons. Like, I think Jude is a compelling character, and I think she really drives the story. And her whole forbidden romance with Cardan, the will they, won't they thing, is fun. It's interesting. It's a good time, but it's not the reason that I like the story, you know? It's not the only thing for me. And that's good, because I'm starting to like Cardan more in the second book, in The Wicked King. Because in the first book, he was just kind of a bitch. Like, he just was a bitch for no reason. But in the second book, he has a bit of an arc. He becomes more calculated. He's arguably worse, but in a better way. He's better at being an asshole. And in the first book, he was just an asshole for no reason, just because he was like traumatized or whatever. It's fair, that's valid, and I understand that sometimes trauma makes people aggressive, but you still can't justify that. Like, you can't justify hurting other people. I don't like whenever people try to justify hurting other people, actively hurting other people, intentionally hurting other people by saying that the person has trauma. It's like, okay, but that doesn't mean they get to cause trauma to other people. It seems like Cardan is starting to be more of a mastermind, starting to be sharper, and I really like that for him. I like when he's evil. I think it's fun. I have to mention his tail. I really have to, unfortunately. It is so bizarre to me that of all the animal parts the author could have given the love interest, she landed on a tail. Because if I were to like make a list of all the, okay, at the risk of sounding like a furry, if I were to make a list of all the animal parts that I could theoretically find attractive on a person, a tail is going to be pretty far at the bottom. It's going to be pretty low down there. We could have done anything. Could have done some little horns, done some fairy wings, super cute. I would have loved it if he had wings. Or I don't know. Well, I guess that's really it. Oh, I love his fairy ears. He has like the pointy elf ears, and I think that's adorable. I think it's great. There's a scene in The Cruel Prince where he like reaches over and touches Jude's ear because she has curved human ears and he has pointy ears, and he like touches it gently, and I think it's so cute. It's adorable. Fairy ears are one of the reasons that I think Link from Zelda is the ideal man. The other reason being that he doesn't talk, and so I think we have so much to work with, and it's like, why did you choose the tail? You could have chosen so many things. You really didn't have to choose the weirdest one. And there's this part where they're like kissing and the author describes Harden's tail rubbing up Jet's. It's so gross. I can't do it. And I was like listening to an audiobook for that part, so let me tell you, I was not prepared to listen to a human woman narrate that to me. That was pretty traumatizing, I'll be honest. What else did I want to talk about? Yeah, so this week is going to be pretty rough. I bought a pack of Red Bull today, if that should tell you what I'm anticipating for this week. I have a test in just everything that I could possibly have a test in. And most of my classes this semester are classes that are prerequisite or like required classes that I have been putting off until now. So I'm not interested in most of them. Also, most of my classes are asynchronous this semester. They're asynchronous and online. So I don't go to lecture ever because there's no lecture. And that's also really difficult because I like lecture. Whenever it's a good class that I like the material for, I like going to lecture. I like listening to the professor talk about something they're passionate about. I think it's interesting. I think it's fun. So it's just kind of difficult to just like read material and write about it or study it every day and not have that human interaction that makes it more worth it. What was I gonna say? Oh, I also got tested for ADHD not too long ago, and I'm getting my results this week, so that should be certainly interesting. I have this fear that I'm gonna get on the phone with my psychiatrist because it's a virtual appointment, and she's gonna say, "You don't have ADHD, you're just fucking dumb." And I'm gonna have to take that because that's her professional opinion. She looked at me, she created a clinical diagnosis and said, "No, you're just stupid." I'm worried that's gonna happen. There are a lot of things that could go wrong. I'm also worried that she's going to tell me that I should get tested for other stuff. Like, she's gonna look at all my results and be like, "Wow, you are fucked up, bitch. You should really get tested for every other disorder there is." Because even in the preliminary appointment before I got tested, she asked me, this was over the phone, she was like, "Have you ever gotten diagnosed with depression?" I was like, "It kind of feels like I just did." Anyway, so that is about it. I think I'm going to read These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, but again, I'm also buried under a pile of work this week, so we'll see if I ever actually get around to it. Enjoy the video. Another thing that I'm working on this week, because I didn't have enough that I was working on this week, is applying to my concentration. So at my university, I have my major and then I have my concentration, and I have to apply to my concentration so that I can take the senior level classes, like the thesis and stuff at the end of my college career. And you know, I would say that's fine. I really would be perfectly okay with that if I had been made aware of it before it was immediately important. If anyone at any point had told me that I needed to apply for those classes, I would have done it last semester, because now I have to do it this semester, and if I don't get in this semester, I don't get to graduate on time. So that's a little bit stressful. Thank you to my advisor for not telling me anything. So last semester, I had my meeting with my advisor. She told me, "You need to apply for your concentration." I said, "What?" She said, "Do it." And this was already after the deadline for that semester had passed, so thank you, Kimberly, for that. But the issue was that I could not find the deadline for the application anywhere. It wasn't on the website. I went to the department's Twitter page to see if they had like a little infographic. Didn't have one. I emailed one of the people in the department. I talked to another guy in the department, emailed another person in the department. Nobody would tell me when the goddamn deadline was, the single most important deadline in my college career. Nobody would tell me the date. Nobody would tell me where to send the application or what to put on the application. So I was just stressing for like 2 weeks, thinking that the deadline probably already passed. It hadn't though. It's this week. They gave me less than 2 weeks notice that the deadline was coming up, and nobody emailed me back. Nobody told me what the deadline is. I only found out because there was an email blast to the entire department telling me when the deadline was. And it's like, okay, Kimberly, I emailed you a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and what did you do? Nothing. But you know what? You have to expect that from college academic advisors. If you've never been to an academic advisor, you might not know this, but typically what happens is you go and you ask them a question and they spit in your face and tell you to go kill your... So that's what happened basically, is I went to the academic advising office. She spit in my face and was like, oh, you want a deadline? Why don't you go kill? And like, I understand that that is part of the office culture in the academic advising office. Like, I get that. But Kimberly, we're in a pandemic. So if you can just like stand on the other side of the room before you spit at me so that, you know, I have a 6-foot radius around me, I don't have to interact with your germs, that would be really great. And before anyone says anything, of course she was wearing a mask, but she actually spit so hard that it penetrated through the mask and hit me in the forehead with the accuracy of a CIA trained sniper. So it was just an overall rough day, but it's okay now. We have a deadline. It's in 2 days, and I am really feeling good. Really not feeling stressed at all. Also, I went to the store today to do HEB pickup, and I wanted the sweet and spicy Doritos. And they gave me the regular Doritos because they were out of the other ones. And I just think that is a little bit sexist. Nothing ever goes right. It's fine. Cheers. Hey guys, so I started reading these Violent Delights and I'm like, okay, not very far in. I'm on chapter 4 and it's really good so far. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling in Shanghai in 1920 something. I want to say like 1926, and it's like kind of more of a West Side Story version of Romeo and Juliet, where it's like the two rival gangs. And so Juliet is from a Chinese gang and Romeo is from, or they call him Roma in this version, is from a Russian gang. And there is a monster going through Shanghai. I hope you enjoy my hand motions to help tell the story. And it is killing people, so I foresee that Roma and Juliet are going to have to team up at some point, and that's gonna be fun. I know there is a sequel to this book, so I'm expecting that it doesn't follow Romeo and Juliet exactly, which is interesting. I will be interested to see how it diverges. It's really good so far. I really like the writing style. It's very pretty and also very just interesting. Sorry, I keep looking over there. There's a wasp in this room and I don't know where it is and I'm too afraid to kill it. But yeah, I really like this writing style so far. I'm very interested in this book and I will keep you updated the more that I read. I've been applying for internships all day and it's just the worst. Like every time I send in an internship application, I just wish I didn't have to be a part of this society, and so many of them are unpaid for humanities majors and I think that's criminal, frankly. I think we should be prosecuting that. It's just every time I write a cover letter, especially cover letters are awful. It's like not only do you have to apply for it and send in your resume, you also have to beg people to hire you, and it's awful. Every time I write a cover letter, I think about like, what if I just was a witch in the woods? You know, would that be so bad? I don't think so. Anyway, I have a few more books that I'm going to be reading. It's going to be interesting to see how I balance them all. I've been reading these Violent Delights and I am that far in. It's very good so far. I really like it. It's not super close to the original Romeo and Juliet, which I think is cool. I think it's interesting and I'm definitely interested to see what comes of it. I don't want to spoil stuff, but I really like it so far. I like the way that the characters are written and I like the writing style. I'm going to be reading is How to Be an Anti-Racist, and I'm reading this because I'm trying to start reading more like nonfiction and more about social issues, because I just think it's really important as I am growing into an adult, into the real world, to be educated on stuff, especially because I'm considering going to law school. There's a lot of issues with the legal system and race, and I think it's important to understand those before, you know, making a career out of it. Another book that I'm going to be reading is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. I ended up getting an ARC for this book because I like talked to his publicist for a magazine that I work for, and she just gave me an ARC, so that's kind of fun. The book, I haven't started it yet. I have like 4 days to read it before I'm supposed to write a review for it. I hope it's short. But I really liked Aiden Thomas's other book, which is Cemetery Boys. I really liked that book. So I have high hopes for this one, and I'm excited. I've never gotten an ARC before, so that is super fun. I feel so important. And yeah, that's the update. Hi guys, so I finished Lost in the Neverwoods and it was fine. I liked it mostly. It was kind of slow at times and I have a lot of thoughts about it. It was a Peter Pan retelling, which I wasn't expecting, but I also didn't read the blurb, so I wasn't expecting anything. I thought it was good. I liked the ending. I liked the twist that it had on the original Peter Pan story, but I did think it was slow, and I did think the romance was a little weird between Peter and Wendy. I don't know, and I was also a bit confused about what Peter Pan is, like, because I was under the impression in the Disney version that Peter Pan is just a guy, it's just a kid who went to Neverland and lives there now, and he goes and finds kids and brings them there, but he isn't a deity or anything. He doesn't have any sort of higher power. And in this book, it kind of seemed like he did have some kind of higher power. And I won't spoil anything, but it just seemed like maybe he wasn't actually human. He wasn't actually like he wasn't originally a child before he ended up in Neverland. It kind of, to me, seemed like he originated in Neverland and he was not entirely human. But that wasn't really explained, so I was a bit confused about that. I liked the ending, thought it was fun. It explores a lot of themes of grief and loss and guilt and healing from those things, which I thought was interesting. I like seeing that in YA because, you know, these very serious problems are problems that kids have to deal with, and I think it's good that you put it into a context that a younger audience will be able to understand and an older audience will be able to find some comfort in. So I did really like that about the story. So overall, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, and that's all I'll say about it for now. Maybe I'll talk about it later in like a wrap up. But yeah, so that's gonna be the end of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.